Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I wanted to talk about Marilyn Monroe. Oh my goodness, I've been meaning to do the story for a while now, and so I decided to do it in an upload. But I want to kind of talk about it a little bit. Her death, all the mystery behind her death. A lot of people don't know that she was actually involved with the President of the United States at one time, John F. Kennedy. Hold on one second. I'm going to mute up and go right to, thank you, JJ. I'm going to mute up and I'm going to go right to the video. You all just listen. Hello, everybody. Thank you so very much for joining me today. On my screen is the fabulous, beautiful Marilyn Monroe. Yes, today I'm going to give a little bit of insight about her early life and her early departure. This video on my screen that you're watching is a performance that she did for the President of the United States at that time, John F. Kennedy. She was dead 3 months later. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Indie Show. Yeah. Everybody, welcome to the Cindy Show. She got news, gospel, and a whole lot more. Make sure you hit the like, subscribing button at the door so you can get your drinks and popcorns and enjoy the show. Sit back, relax, and watch the queen speak her mind. She about to go live, so it's about that time. She always speak the truth, never drop no lies. And she always high, bitch, look in the eyes. So, like I said before, hit the like, subscribing at the door. And if you're a hater, you keep that shit on the low. I know y'all been waiting a long time, so here we go. So let me introduce y'all to Miss Indy Show. Miss Indy, Miss Indy, Miss Indy.
She was born Norma Jean Mortensen on June 1st, 1926. Gladys Baker is Norma's mother, but she was unaware of who Norma's father was. Gladys had dreams of being on the big screen. However, when Norma was 7 years old, her mom had a nervous breakdown and she was admitted to the state local institution and diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. This left Norma an orphan. She was shuffled through foster homes. In 1935, 9-year-old Norma was placed in the care of Los Angeles Orphan Home Society. She hated it there. She had told terrible stories of cardboard birthday cakes full of dust and not enough to eat, bullying, and etc. Norma spent 2 years at the orphanage. She was released to her mother's friend, Grace. She then became her legal guardian. When Norma hit high school, she started to turn the heads of the boys. For the first time, she felt wanted. Her self-confidence. Norma was beautiful and busty. All the boys were after her. She dated a lot of people, and others were thinking that she was having sex with all of these other men and that she would end up just like her mother, meaning that she would be pregnant without being married. Now, Grace, her guardian, she was preparing to move out of state. She didn't know what to do with Norma, so she encouraged her to marry the neighbor. Right, a 20-year-old boy named Jim Doherty. Norma was 16 years old. Norma was not happy as a housewife. World War II came around and her husband was sent to the Pacific. Norma accepted a job at the home front, which is where she caught the eye of an Army photographer who suggested a photo shoot. She loved the spotlight, and against her husband's wishes, she quit the factory job and went into modeling. Zuma Beach in Malibu was the first destination of her very first shoot. She found herself as a highly demanded model right after this. She started as a pinup model. As her career took off, her marriage began to disintegrate. He wasn't happy about the attention she was receiving, and he wanted her to quit. There was no choice for Norma. She continued to model, and in over 2 years, she had 33 magazine covers. But there was one picture that turned her into the Marilyn Monroe. She went from brunette to a blonde and loved it. A few years later, she met and married one of the most famous athletes in the world, Joe DiMaggio. This was January 1954. While with Fox Studios, Norma Jean became Marilyn Monroe. Ben Lyon, he's the guy who interviewed her. Now, he had a whole nother crush on a woman named Marilyn Miller. She was a star on Broadway. And Monroe was the last name of several women in her family. So there you have it, Marilyn Monroe. It was said that Marilyn was very promiscuous. Her tactics paid off, and she appeared in several films. She was now Hollywood's newest it girl. She started to feel the trappings of fame. She started taking pharmaceutical drugs to keep her up with her demanded schedule. Word got out that Marilyn was neglecting her mother in a ran down mental health facility. Marilyn went and moved her mother to an upscale institution where she lived for 15 years, never to be visited by her daughter, Marilyn Monroe. There was a legendary photo shoot on the streets of Manhattan, Lexington and 52nd to be exact. This is where her most famous picture was taken. Her husband, Joe DiMaggio, was in the crowd and growing more and more angry by the minute. He was jealous of her sex symbol status. He saw the photographers pointing their cameras up her skirt, even after Marilyn had specifically asked them not to. She became uncomfortable and left. And enraged Joe confronted her in the hotel room. He hit her. She filed for divorce shortly after. Arthur Miller was the next man that Marilyn fell in love with. He was a heartthrob rock star. With an 11-year age difference, they married June of 1956. Marilyn moved into an upscale Brentwood neighborhood in Los Angeles, the place where she would eventually die alone. Her third marriage to Arthur Miller was in shambles. Marilyn felt like he treated her like a child, and he was controlling, and Marilyn's drug use wasn't helping, and she was conflicting on starting a family. She was afraid her children would go crazy one day like her mother, or even her. The drugs led Marilyn's career on a downslide. Marilyn saw a therapist, and that therapist immediately recommended Marilyn check herself into the Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic. Just like her mother, she now has been institutionalized in 1961. This was the worst place for Marilyn, so she called her ex-husband, Joe DiMaggio, to get her out. He came down to the psychiatric hospital and told those people that he would take that building down block by block if they didn't let her out. So they did, but it left Marilyn traumatized. Since her split from her third husband, Marilyn had numerous affairs with powerful men, including the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, in 1961. Rumors started to spread about her connection to the president. In May 1962, 3 months before her death, she sang for the president at Madison Square Garden for his birthday. Check it out.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. Don't worry, Mr. President, for all the things you've done, the battles that you've won, the way you deal with U.S. Steel and our problems by the ton. We thank you so much. Everybody, happy birthday!
Many believe it was this performance that put a target on her. Tabloids reported that she made love to the president in front of an audience of over 4 million people. The president was embarrassed and cut ties with her immediately. But then he passed her to his brother, Robert Kennedy. The relationship didn't last, and Marilyn was alone again. She was now in her new Brentwood home, but wouldn't have any time to enjoy it. Marilyn had been fired from Fox for missing too many days of filming. She was depressed and secluded herself into her home. August 4th, 1962, Marilyn is drowning herself in alcohol. Marilyn's doctor made a house call and left a package. Many think this is what killed her. Chlorohydrate is what he had given her. Now, this is meant to treat insomnia. At 3 a.m., the housekeeper noticed Marilyn's light on. She went to go check, but the door was locked. She called for her and knocked, to no avail. The housekeeper then panicked and called the doctor back. He arrived and smashed the bedroom window to get in. Marilyn was face down in her bed, clutching a telephone receiver and an empty pill bottle nearby. Marilyn was pronounced dead at 6 a.m. Her death shocks the world. The coroner's report said the cause of death was acute barbiturate poisoning. No signs of external damage on her body, so her death was ruled a suicide. However, many are not convinced of those findings because she was to be reinstated at Fox. The actor's studio also wanted her back, and she has so many more opportunities. Years after her death, rumors started to circulate that she was murdered. Now, there's a guy named Rusty Straight. He claims that he heard audio from CIA agent Frank Otesh. Otesh said that he was paid to bug Marilyn Monroe's home in an effort to protect John F. Kennedy and his brother. There were allegedly 11 hours of tape. And on the last day of Marilyn's life, Robert was spotted at Marilyn's home. Her neighbors saw him walk right by where they were having a parlor card game. One of them saw Robert pass right by the window. He stopped right at Marilyn's home, and the neighbors, they heard an argument. Most people knew that Marilyn felt pushed aside, and she said that she knew things. She was going to spill her guts to the media. Was she killed to protect politicians? Was she drugged and smothered? Unfortunately, we will never know because conveniently the tapes have disappeared from that CIA agent. In the 1980s, a reinvestigation was done on her death, but found no evidence of foul play. Her mother died in 1984, spending her adult life in institutions. The beautiful Marilyn Monroe. You know, we never know the walk of life that people take because, as you know, we all have our own. And to see the struggle from a child born to a mother with mental health issues, not knowing who her father was. And incidentally, I did not mention it, but there was a man who it turned out was Marilyn Monroe's father. She knew of this. She had suspected it. One of her mother's friends had told her that, you know, he was one of the guys that Marilyn's mother was fooling around with, you know, back in the day. And so Marilyn would go and try to see this man. He didn't want to see her. He didn't want anything to do with any fame. He didn't like all that attention. He was married. He had a small dairy farm. He didn't want to be dealing with none of that. Marilyn would still go to his home and park her limousine across the street and wait for him to go home for lunch. She would sit there and watch through her binoculars in hopes to get a glimpse of her father. It is said that on his deathbed, he did admit to being her father. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to hit that like button, and I'll see you guys. Wow, wow, wow. Some of the things we don't know about people's lives and everything, I just found it so, so very fascinating. Just, I don't know, the husbands that she was always with men of some type of stature and or power. The ball player Joe Damasio, you know, he was the best at it in his day. And then to know that she was sitting up pillow talking and purring with the president of the United States of America, purring with him. Could you imagine the pillow talking he was laying down, talking, discussing with her, the stress of the world, all this stuff? And he just laying, just talking. But you know what? When she did that happy birthday song for him in Madison Square, I believe put a big target on her. It was embarrassing for him. He cut ties, tried to pass her off to his brother. She felt like a piece of trash. They bugged her house. Her only get back was, I know shit. And if you're going to treat me like this, I'm just going to go out here and just say what the hell I know. Her neighbors testified that they saw Robert the day that she died. They saw him at her house. He was there. Things that may go, Now, I'm not saying she didn't have any type of drug problem. It was evident that she did. And I'm going to go ahead and say, really not surprising. She was put into foster care as a child, but we don't know that she was getting any type of mental help there. Were these people simply there just for placement of the children? Were they really dedicated? We don't know. Now, kudos to her mother's best friend that took her in. But at the same time, how goddamn dare you? Why didn't you take at that time, Norma, with you. She left the state and said she didn't know what to do with her. So she forced her out into the arms of a man, a neighbor, at 16 years old. So is this the reason, part of the reason she's been so dependent on men, thinking that this was the way to go? But at the same time, she knew better. She had grew to get her own fame. She was Marilyn Monroe. And to know that she was accosted in her hotel room by her husband is extremely disturbing. Extremely disturbing. She did the right thing, and I'm glad she did. She left his ass. I don't know if anybody wanted to say anything on this, but I'm going to attempt to drop the link. If not, I'm going to get on. Let me see. Y'all know I get up here and be messing up and everything. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I just thought it was a fascinating story. I will be going through some other ones. I do plan to be doing Anna Nicole and also Nicole Simpson. Those will probably take a little bit more time, but I do intend to do that. And the more I do, the better I'll get with my editing. So y'all please work with me. Plus I need to go get me some glasses and quit playing because I can't see like those little lines sometimes and I just be messing up. Hey, Queen of the South. God bless you, darling. So good to see you. And so anyway, so yeah, Marilyn Monroe was purring on the phone with the president and pillow talking. Do you think that she was off by them? Now let's think about it. Her doctor smashed her bedroom window, went in there, saw her face down on the bed with a telephone receiver in her hand and a bottle of pills nearby. So she's committing suicide intentionally. Did she get scared and then pick up the phone and was going to call for help? Or was someone in her room accosting her and she died with the phone in her hand? You know, there is something called a death grip. Could that be possible? We don't know. Like they said, they did reopen a case back up in the 80s. And, you know, due to there was no trauma to her actual body, they labeled it a suicide. I guess that's open and shut. I don't think they're going to do anything more. But I'm telling you, in my opinion, it's a lot of loose ends in this story. A lot of people know something. Well, they're probably most of them deceased by now, but this was no secret then. But I tell you what, girl, didn't she look bad? Honey, she wore that dress. I don't give a damn what nobody say. Yeah, she did a little too much in that second verse. She should have just left that part out. But honey, that dress in that day, even in this day, but in that day, honey, Marilyn did her goddamn thing. She did it. But she shouldn't have did that shit in public. She should have waited until she got with the president in private, which she knew was going to happen because that was her little love bug. And she should have did that privately. I believe that the president knew that it was, you know, rumors and stuff about she and him. And for her to do that, as they said, in front of an audience of 4 million people, he probably felt like that just confirmed it. Again, this is a married man. You know what I'm saying? Family and all this stuff. And she up there wiggling and gyrating and all this stuff, talking about happy birthday and rubbing her hips and cupping her breasts. And oh my God. Woo-wee. I don't even know, child. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go on. I do have this video in the in an actual upload, so I'll be uploading that. Thank you all for coming in, and I'll see you again next time. Bye. Let me explain something to you. You right here, this is not LTG's page. Okay? Whatever you have to say to her, why don't you go over there and say that to her? And I'm sure she will address you. Please don't bring that into my chat. That is not what I do over here. If you decide to do so, at least show your motherfucking face. This is Indy. You all have a good night.